In today's episode, I'm sharing my personal journey of learning new skills in order to tackle any project I set my mind to, and how you can do it too, no matter where you're starting from. Whether it's a remodeling project in your home or you want to explore a new creative hobby, I've learned that patience and a bit of research go a long way. Join me as I share practical tips and tricks that will empower you to tackle any project with confidence. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the With My Own Two Hands podcast. I'm your host, McKenna Lee, XO McKenna, whatever you want to call me. I tell people all the time I answer to anything remotely sounding, like when they're calling your coffee order or whatever. My name is so hard that I'm just like, Mackenzie, Machina, I've gotten it all. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing so well. I am very much quickly approaching this little baby boy's due date, but he is still really comfy in his little apartment that I've built for him in my belly. So we're just trucking right along. And I have a fun episode that I'd like to share with you guys today. And it actually is kind of piggybacking off of last episode where we talked all about how to start a project, like how to get started, what I do, how to digest it all and not make it super overwhelming. I also have my dog Kinsley here that is very much wanting attention, so I'm just trying to calm her down. So this topic also comes from you guys, but I thought it was the perfect piggyback from last episode. So this is all about how to learn the skills to tackle any project and how I have personally learned the skills to tackle any project that I set my mind to, where it all stems from, how I get started, all of that, and how to just kind of go into it with confidence. And so one of you guys sent in this topic. She says, you always have these amazing skills that you've learned over the years, and we randomly see them pop out when they're needed, like scrapbooking, journaling, sewing, painting, woodworking, 3D modeling, drawing plans and elevations, product photography, designing and launching an entire website, making a blog. I do dabble in a lot of different things. I have a lot of interests. I'm a curious person, so I have definitely adopted a lot of skills over the years for different things that I've wanted to tackle. She'd really like a segment where I kind of pick a skill and tell us more about it, how I learned it, how I use it, what ongoing projects I've done, would I do them again kind of thing. And it got me thinking about all the skills and the ongoing learning that I have to do, ongoing research that I have to do, and skills that I need to adopt and just gain to do all these projects that I want to do, because I'm never really doing the same thing twice, or I'm always doing something new. I'm always trying to tackle a new project with new tools or new specific things that I want to add in. And I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over again, the same way. So I'm always trying to learn new things. So got me thinking about how to start a project and how to overcome, the procrastination of not being confident in it, and, just kind of closing the door on a project and just being overwhelmed with it. And then now, after you've gained the confidence and you have a plan to start a project, how do you do it? Kind of thing. And so that's really what I want to dive into today. And just a little bit about me, and I guess my history is that I have always loved to learn new things. I think of myself as a sponge. I want to just absorb it all. I always have my ears perked or my eyes open when I'm seeing someone do something. I'm just a sponge. I love it. I love to absorb it. Literally, my first phrase that I learned, and my mom can attest to this, my first phrase I learned when I was little is "me do it." Me do it. I never wanted any help doing anything. I always wanted to do things myself. And it didn't matter what it was. Feeding myself, clothing, picking out clothes, everything and in between. I was like, me do it, me do it, me do it, me do it. And that personality trait has carried throughout my entire 35 years in existence. Truly, I'm very much a me do it person. The word DIY, do it yourself, is literally ingrained in who I am. So if you're like me and you are also a person that just loves to do things themselves. And maybe, you could dig deeper and probably figure out why I like to do things myself. I'm very much an introvert as well. I don't, I can't, I'm an introverted extrovert. I can talk to people, but I just like me and my projects. I don't like to ask people for help. I feel like I'm annoying them or a burden. So I tend to want to learn more things myself. If you're anything like me and you've also struggled with that, you probably are a just through and through DIYer. And in that, being a DIYer, you just love to do things yourself, or you love to figure things out. I was the kid that liked to take things apart just to figure out how they were made, kind of thing, and I have through that learned so many skills, and just through trial and error, really. And as I got older, I would be a sponge. I would watch how people would do different projects or different things. My parents were always building homes, with a dad that's, civil engineer and an architect, and a mom that's an interior designer. We always had like contractors, and they were building houses and things. And I was just like a huge sponge, and I would see them do something. And I remember, like, if I saw someone do something that was so easy, I'm like, oh, I could have done that. I have those moments a lot. I'm like, that was how easy that was. Or, like how a wall was built, or, well, not to say that that's easy. There's a finesse to it, building a wall. But building my first wall was pretty empowering. So if I saw someone doing something that I was like, oh, that's how that's done, I would kind of kick myself for not trying it myself. So through renovating the cottage, and through now doing the renovations on our kitchen here in our home, and just projects in general, and watching a lot of YouTube videos, and just anything and everything, I really have become a jack of all trades in a sense. Now, I know that there's a saying that says, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And there is so much truth in that, to an extent. You can be able to do all of these different things, but do you do any of them well? Or do you do any of them enough to really master it, kind of thing? And so that's where I think that it's really reigns true. It's like one person that does one thing really, really well is just incredible at it. And there are creatives and skilled tradesmen that have fine-tuned their skills on a specific thing for so many years that just make them incredible at it. I've seen that through building homes. I've seen that through just like artisans and creatives that maybe even do pottery or paint. My mom has been painting since she has been retired, and through painting and classes and perfecting her skill and learning new mediums and just practice, oh my gosh, every time she comes up with a collection, she is better and better and better and better, because practice on one thing does, quote unquote, make perfect, kind of thing. So if she was like a painter one day and a builder the next day, and a writer the next day, she wouldn't spend as much time on one thing. So she wouldn't be as good as someone that spent all of their effort on just painting. So I'm more considered that a jack of all trades. I like to do lots of different things instead of one particular thing, but it is really centralized, or like it's all about like home decor, and renovations and projects like that. I like being handy and capable and kind of malleable in a sense. I like to adapt my skills to different projects because I get bored easily, and I like to do different things. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. So by effect, I think I'm a jack of all trades in that sense, because I'm just a curious person that likes to learn different things all the time. So because I've always loved to learn new things, Google has always been my best friend. I said this all throughout when I was renovating the cottage. I'm like, I Google it, I YouTube it, I research it, I read the blog posts about it. I watch all the YouTube videos, tutorials on something, watch all the different ways that someone would do this one particular thing. And I'll absorb as much information online as I possibly can. Now, we're so lucky that we have the internet. Do you know what I mean? Like we're so lucky that we could just have that much knowledge from other people at our fingertips, and maybe people that have done it right, people that have done it wrong, people that have done it anywhere in between differently. When I research a project, I'm really looking at it as terms of like, I need to watch them all so that I can figure out how I want to do this. Like I need to learn the tool that does it, but I also need to adapt it to my own style and my own abilities, or something like, or my own budget, something like that. So Google will be your best friend if you want to learn a new skill, and watching all the videos kind of thing, like you'll become that person. And I've always been the person too, like in my past careers and, just through school and then my careers and then through my projects that I've been sharing on YouTube. I've always wanted to get better and advance. Like in my career, I always wanted to advance my career. I always wanted to be helpful in any way that I could be, so I was always learning something new. If I wanted that next promotion, I was absorbing everything about what I needed to do in that next job. And I was researching, and when I was in marketing, I was always learning new marketing skills and things like that. So I was constantly absorbing from my peers, but also just trying to better myself so that I could be up for that next promotion, or I could be that much better at that next project kind of thing. Now, there are totally downfalls, or the downside of being a capable person with lots of skills. Let me warn you, because people can take advantage of capable people in a career setting, in a job setting. So if you're capable and you don't know your worth, and you can't stand on like your ground and be like, oh, I know what I'm worth, and me just because I can and not pay me for it kind of thing. So I was in several jobs throughout my career in fashion and marketing where I was incredibly taken advantage of. I wore way too many hats because I knew a lot and I was willing to go above and beyond, thinking I would be rewarded for it without asking for it. And I wasn't, which is why I do what I do now. But capable people can kind of get the short end of the straw kind of thing. They just get a lot piled on them. So always know if you're in a career setting, I'm kind of getting off track, but if you're in a career setting like that, like always know your worth. And no is a complete sentence. And you can be like, no, that's not my job description. No, I will not do that extra work, whatever. And I know that's really hard. That was always hard for me to do, say no. Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But I always wanted to get better at everything that I did. Right. So it didn't matter if it was my job, or it didn't matter if it was like my projects that I was doing, and so when I wanted to get into woodworking, I always wanted to get better and better and better and have more understanding of what that meant, using power tools, how to do them properly, what they did. And there's so much learning to be had, and you have to spend like time with it. Now, through learning a lot of skills throughout my projects, I've learned that I don't like to do all of the things that I've learned, so some things I'm just like, I don't want to ever do this again. Yeah, I learned how to do it. I totally respect the people that do it. I don't want to do this again. This isn't where my interests lie, kind of thing. Not only do you recognize the things that you don't like to do, but also sometimes the financial investment in maybe the tools that you need to do that specific skill, or the time that you need to invest to be good enough at it, is sometimes just not worth it. So sometimes it's just worth hiring the professional to come and do that work for you than for you to do it on your own, or to further invest in the tools to do it, or to further invest in the skill like at all. One in particular, I will tell you, like one of the things that just popped in my mind that I won't ever do again is make my own cabinet doors. Now, I did it at the cottage. I made 42 of them. And I have come to realize that they have replaced human cabinet door makers with machine cabinet door makers. And I am just never going to be as perfect as a machine. And there was one particular challenge that I kept running into with making cabinet doors and just like knowing how to make them that I just could not remedy. And I was frustrated by the project. I was overwhelmed because I had to do so many and I had to keep making ones over and over and over again. I don't know if it'll come across, I don't know if I'll be able to explain it right, but basically when you build cabinet doors yourself and you're using clamps and glue and weights and things, the doors can torque, meaning like kind of warp in a sense, like once, if you were to lay it out on a flat surface, it wouldn't be even, it would like kind of rock. And I kept having this quote unquote torquing issue, and it doesn't make for a very finished look. I'm not a machine, so anyways, that was one of the things that I would never do again. And you'll encounter that throughout your journey of like adopting new skills to do new projects and stuff, where there's just like, you just don't like to do things. You're just like, I don't really like, I really thrive at this and I have the patience for this, but I really don't like to do that. And I feel like that's with everything. So what it does make me do is through the cabinet process, like cabinet door process and the cabinetry process in general, or through different skills that I've learned and projects that I've tried, it has made me have so much respect and knowledge about the things that these tradesmen do well, right? So I have respect for what they do. I have more patience for how much time they invest in these things. Like when we were going into the cabinetry portion of our kitchen renovation, I knew it was going to take time. I know what goes into the measurements of each particular carcass that goes into like the boxes they call carcasses, each particular box that needs to be made, all the spacing, how to make the feet, because I wanted each piece of cabinetry to look like pieces of furniture. So I wanted these decorative feet. They have to make each one. And I know exactly how they're made. So I knew the effort and I knew the energy that they needed to put into everything. And because they've been doing it so much longer than me, they're so much better at it, and they've had so much more practice with it that I have just so much respect for it. So where I don't like particularly the skill or investing in all the tools to do that particular project, it has helped me to appreciate them and to be more respectful of the process and timelines through every project that I do going forward. So it's still an advantage, just I'm not physically doing the project myself. So a big thank you to Dreamland Baby for sponsoring today's episode. You guys can go to dreamlandbabyco.com and enter my code XO at checkout to receive 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. And this offer is for new and existing customers. Romeo and I have been nesting so much over the last few months, trying to get everything ready for our baby boy's arrival, doing everything from like deep cleaning to finishing up his nursery to stocking his room with diapers, wipes, and newborn clothes. And a few of our friends that have kids have shared some of their favorite products that they've used for their babies. And Dreamland Baby's bamboo pajamas and their dream weighted sleep sacks have been highly recommended. Made with 100% soft natural cotton, their dream weighted sleep sack relaxes and calms the baby to help them sleep better and for longer stretches of time, because the gentle weight mimics the feeling of a parent's touch or hug. They also have a two-way zipper, so it's super easy to change diapers without completely removing the sleep sack. And honestly, anything to help him sleep and us more is a plus for me. We can't wait to wrap our little boy in Dreamland once he arrives. If you want to check out Dreamland's products for your little one and save 20% plus free shipping, go to dreamlandbabyco.com and enter my code XO at checkout. So throughout my many careers over the years, I've picked up a lot of skills that I can continue to apply to new projects and continue to evolve with. I can continue to add that one little detail, into my skill pouch of things that I know, and I can apply it to something that I've already known and make a much bigger project and a much better project, the next time. But for the majority of my projects, because I'm a creature of I don't like to do the same things twice. I'm a jack of all trades kind of thing. I like to experiment and do new things. So the majority of the projects that I do, I'm doing for the first time. So there's always something new I need to learn. There's always something new that I need to research, that I need to get better at, that I need probably a new tool to invest in something kind of thing. So I'm always constantly learning, and I'm always being that sponge. So when I'm doing new projects all the time, skills are really needed on a project by project basis, right? It's all particular to what I'm doing at the time, what tools I'm going to need, what process I'm going to follow, what materials I'm going to be using if I've ever used them before or whatever. And so every project's kind of a mix. Sometimes I've used, I'm like, okay, I have my go-tos that I like for particular things that are going to give me particular outcomes. And then I can learn a few things or adopt a few skills to make it into what I want. So with every new project and every new skill that I learn, it's a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of research. It's watching a lot of YouTube videos and Googling, and just kind of getting my brain wrapped around what other people do. But following a tutorial online is really just a starting off point for me. And I really think it comes down to people don't do things the way that I want to do things, because I really always push the boundaries with my projects and my design. So I'm oftentimes doing something that someone's never done before. So I'm not going to go online and go to a YouTube video and actually see someone doing that. I don't want to follow that exactly. I'm always adapting something to my own design or my own project. So it's really that's just the starting off point. I really learned the majority of the skill that I need for a particular project by trial and error. It's just starting somewhere, starting to do it. And that's what really researching and watching other videos and watching, like reading blog posts and stuff, and watching other people do something. That's really what that helps me with. It's okay, they did this that way. So what can I take from what they did and adapt it to my project? And then it's about trial and error. I need to just try it out myself. And then it's about practicing that. It's how to get better. I remember when I was doing actually the cabinet doors, I needed to make, kind of a tongue and groove kind of situation on the inside of the whole thing to hold the center panel. And I had to build actually a contraption for my power tool so that I could create this groove. It's a whole lot that goes into that project. But I needed to build this contraption, and it was really about just practicing it. It's how to get it perfect. So I would take some scrap wood and I would just do it over and over again until I found my groove with it, and I understood how the tool was cutting and really getting exactly what I wanted. And then it was about me finding my own way through the project. Sometimes I would want to do something a little different or have a different design or something. It was just, you really just have to get started somewhere and try it out. And then your project starts to evolve. So it takes time. It really takes time to develop the skill in order to do what you want it to do. Most of the time it was about learning multiple skills to just do one thing. One skill had multiple skills in it, and I would learn this one skill online. Maybe it was how to use a particular bit for my router tool, if that makes any sense to you. But that's what I used for these cabinet doors. And it was a particular bit that I needed in order to make a bigger design, in order for it to... they're layered. Skills are layered. So it's not really, when you go online, you're not really going to find someone that's going to be doing completely exactly what you want to do yourself, unless you are following their tutorial and you want to create something exactly how they did it, and then yes, it's totally going to work for you. That just doesn't happen to be my case. I always want to do something different. I always want to do something bigger or different, or a different design, and adapt it to my own flavor of design, you know? My journey into woodworking and power tools really started really small, and you really just have to start somewhere, because a lot of the skills, especially with woodworking and power tools, the tools are expensive. You know, like, so I really started with a drill, a power drill, and a hand saw, not even like something that you plugged in, like a power tool. It was just a hand saw, and I did a project like that. So then after I had a power tool and my hand saw, I knew I needed to upgrade my saw. So I got the safest one up from that, but it was a power tool, which was a miter saw. So it's actually the one with the blade and the handle that you pull down onto wood, and it cuts wood that is smaller in diameter. So most of the ones that are like but more budget friendly only cut like 6-inch wood or something. So you can cut like 2x4s with it. You can cut just smaller pieces of wood that are thinner. And so I was like, okay, what project can I work on with just these tools? Like, what can I use these tools for? So my very first woodworking project was a vanity. I built a vanity, and I found a tutorial online, and I followed her tutorial exactly. I just modified like the stain color and then also the handles that I put on it. And so following a tutorial exactly helped me to learn that skill, to learn how to use the miter saw really well, to learn how I also had bought a Craig pocket hole jig that created pocket holes to join wood together to create boxes and put things together to build furniture. So I was also using that tool and learning how to use that tool. So that particular project taught me to use those tools that I would go on to use so many times throughout my woodworking skill learning journey. You know, I moved on from a vanity that I still have, by the way, it's upstairs as a desk for a Romeo. I moved on from that and made patio chairs, and I did design those myself. So I used the skills that I had learned from the vanity and actually created my own plans for patio chairs, and figured out how to adapt kind of a different tutorial I had found online for patio chairs into my own design. So I was evolving. I evolved pretty quickly with my skills. I'm like, okay, I want to make something unique, you know, like just for me. Really helped me starting small, growing, figuring out, you know, like how to make it my own, and slowly investing in more and more tools because they're expensive. And because I only wanted to invest in the tools as I needed them, as my projects became more complicated, that was a great place to start. And I started with the safer options, you know, and worked my way up. There are still tools today that scare the bejesus out of me. Table saws are not, I do not like table saws. Something about that blade coming at the center of my body when I'm cutting, it just freaks me out. So I try and avoid the table saw at all costs, but sometimes I just need it for projects. But I will proceed with caution. Like, I'll always stand off to the side instead. But needless to say, I have not used a table saw or mini power tools since getting pregnant, because it's just like not worth the added danger factor. So on the flip side of that, and my job and my career and everything that I've learned, you know, beforehand, is really allowed me to do a lot of things on the business side. Specifically with launching my own candle line, which I have my candle here, Aud and Lore. And I have done everything from creative direction to designing everything about that candle, to the scents, to the glass, to the vessel, to the size, to then even to building our website. I pretty much shoot all of our product photography now. And all of those are skills that I have learned in previous careers that I have really built on top of and like really like utilized throughout later in life. So I'm always so like glad that I had like a past life, a past career before this, where I learned all of these things. So for Odd and Lore, I did build our website from scratch. There's so many tools that you can utilize now to really like learn how to do all of this stuff. For photography, I shoot all of the product photography, the images that you see on the website, and all of the, the photo shoots. When I'm not in them, I shoot all of those. And I was actually in photography. I was in yearbook class learning how to do photography. I was a photographer for yearbook in high school. So that was my first intro into photography. Not only was I in photography, I also developed all the film because we were still using like photos for our yearbook. We could use digital, and we did. It was like a combo. I don't know why we did it. We had the digital option, but a lot of our cameras were film, and they were still teaching film development, and I was in the dark room developing film. So it's come a long way. And I have a lot of experience with cameras because obviously I film everything. Like I'm filming for you guys right now for YouTube. And so just building on my photography skills, just learning and starting somewhere, or understanding aperture and ISO versus, how to get the right coloring of photography, and understanding cameras, and, all of that is a whole nother skill set, a whole nother part of me and the business that I've learned. And it's helped me so much in building my business for Odd and Lore because I have those skills already. I don't have to hire them out. So when I have the time, and if I have the time, I definitely want to do as much of that as possible because I keep the creative direction with me. Really what it comes down to is if you want to learn a skill for a new project, you have to be willing to invest the time to learn. And occasionally and sometimes invest in the tools that you'll need to even do that in general, to even attempt it, to even trial and error it. Like you're going to have to invest the time and the money in whatever that is. A big one is having patience. I find that a lot of people that are learning or trying to learn something don't give it the patience and the care that you need to, and take the time to actually learn. So something about me is I have a lot of patience when it comes to my projects. I have like an obscene amount. Like I will take the time to figure out the smallest of detail, and I'll work on it for a really long time, more so than the average person. I think that's actually what's allowed me to be successful at like mastering these skills in some form, if you call it mastering, or figuring it out and adapting it to my own projects, is because I have the patience to take the time and really understand how it works. And so patience is a big one. Like a skill is a learned thing. Like you're going through trial and error. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn just as much from those mistakes as you are from the good outcomes. You know what I mean? But like, oh, that didn't work. Every time I would try, a new like tool or something, I'm like, well, that didn't work at all. Like I have to have a new bit, or I have to change the way I'm doing it. So learning from the mistakes and doing it better next time, you're just building on that experience, and you're doing that's the error part, the trial and error of it all. And then also what I said before is like recognizing which projects just aren't your cup of tea. Like just like which ones do you just like not want to mess with? And knowing that you can just hire that stuff out, and just being like, nah, I'm good. It's too much. Like all the stuff that you need to buy to do it, the time invested is not worth my time. It's worth it to hire out because you've attempted it. You know that now. So if you want to learn any skill to tackle any of the projects that you want to tackle, first figure out what the project is, what you want to accomplish, what you want the outcome to be, and start researching it. You're not going to find exactly what you're looking for, most likely. But if you wanted to do, let's say, cabinet doors, just start by searching that. It doesn't matter what design that they did. It doesn't matter what wood they used. It doesn't matter what size they're making them. You just need the process, right? So you need to look at it through the lens of just like, okay, let me see how they made their design. Then you can adapt it to yours. And then watch all the videos, all of them. Doesn't matter. I mean, a handful of them, if not the majority of them, are going to be pretty excruciating to get through. I usually put it on like 2x because, you know, not everyone that makes videos is going to be great at it. And then there's going to be some that are like phenomenal tutorials, you know, so you just need to get somewhere. So like put it on 2x, get through it, get through the meat of the video, get to the part that you need, and watch all of the videos. Read all of the blog posts. When you look on Google, when you search on Google, you know, that's going to bring up like tutorials that are on blog posts. Read through them. If they have pictures, even better. I sometimes like reading blog posts and looking at the pictures over watching a video, because I can kind of get to what I need to understand quicker. I can get to the part of the tutorial that's going to be really valuable for me. But sometimes it's valuable to see something, you know, in video form, because you're seeing it in real time, like you're seeing it really happen. So you can, you know, further understand what's happening. So for instance, like my woodworking journey and my power tool journey, I figured out what was basic, like where I would need to start with a power tool, you know, and I would find projects that fit those basic tools. And then I would build up from that. And that has really helped me like hone the skill and understand what I needed to do for it, you know, and how I could build on it and how I could eventually make what I wanted to make with the tools that I needed. So for this week, I actually have my own design dilemmas, my own new projects that I'm about to dive into. Like I said, the majority of the projects that I do I'm doing for the first time in some fashion, in some way. And a lot of research has to go into it before I even buy materials and start thinking about sharing a video and filming it. And even, I even practice sometimes, you know, beforehand. But more than often, I'm just kind of diving into it, and you guys get to see the experience of me kind of like going through the process of working on a project. Here are a few projects that I want to dive into soon, probably after the baby, but soon-ish, that I have no idea yet how to accomplish or how to wrap my head around. So one of them is actually for our kitchen renovation. And it's really spawning from the fact that I can't find anything that I like. And that's usually where all of my projects start. It's like, well, there's nothing out there like I see it in my head. And I want this specific thing on this, and I can never find what I want. And I want it to be unique and different, all of this. So that's the majority where my projects come from. I want, for our kitchen renovation, I want a very specific tile. And I found an inspiration picture. I'll put it on the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube. I found this tile that I like, but it's not quite right. But it's the only one that I kind of like. Well, this isn't sold anywhere. I can't find this anywhere. I have looked everywhere. I found renditions, and I know some people are going to send it to me. They're going to try and find it. It's no. Like I found renditions of it. I found it in maybe different materials. It's not quite right. I was like, well, I could hand paint my own tile, or I can make my own tile, DIY my own tile for the kitchen. Well, my problem is whenever I do a project, I want to do it well, and I want to do it right. There's nothing more than I hate than a botched DIY, or what I used to call kind of like throwaway DIY projects, you know, kind of in the beginning of my YouTube kind of journey and beginning of me just learning new skills. You know, the projects weren't really high quality. We weren't using high quality materials. We were on a super low budget, you know, so I had a lot of throwaway, quote unquote, DIY projects. And so my struggle now is that, you know, I'm putting tile in this home that's going to be our home for a really long time, and I want to do it right, and I want to do it well, and I want it to be out of a material and a finish that actually withstands time and adds value to this home, because if we sell this home one day, I don't want botched tile in the kitchen, things like that. So I can't find something I like, so I want to DIY it, but I want to do it well. So that involves a lot of research, and I have done so much research. I have watched videos on people making their own tile, more clay tile, for instance. And I've done pottery classes, where we use clay, and I make a piece of pottery or whatever, and they put it in the kiln, and then we pick the color and they color it. But see, I've done pottery where they actually haven't let me see that process. I don't get to see the kiln, and I don't get to see them. I may have colored, dipped them in one class that I took with Drew. We may have dipped them in the color. Maybe that, I'm trying to remember. But so I don't get to see the whole process. So I'm like, okay, would I use clay tile? And clay tile is used in home. It's been used for ages, in lots of different applications for clay. But I would need a kiln. I don't have a kiln. And then I thought, I'm like, okay, do I need to rent a kiln? But I can't really rent one for my home. Should I rent space, at a pottery class and then make all my tile? I'm like, oh my gosh, how much tile am I going to be making? These are all the thoughts that I have in my head when I'm starting a project. And I've watched so many YouTube videos of people making their own tile. I've watched various forms of it, from high quality to kind of just a DIY project. I've even thought about the fact that I want them not necessarily to be perfect, but if I make let's say they're square, and let's say I want to make a 4x4 square tile that then I color and I hand paint a specific design in the corners of. I would want the tile to be maybe not perfectly flat, but somewhat. I don't want it super organic to where it's super jagged and stuff, but also it could be cool if it's kind of like that. So how to keep it flat. When it goes in the kiln, you have to put it between two pieces of board of some kind. Where do I even start? So I understand when you guys send in these dilemmas if you're like, I want to do this, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where to start with this. This is how I feel about how to make tile and the level of tile that I want to create. Then I start to think, I'm like, okay, how do they make porcelain tile? It's made out of porcelain. And my brain starts to go to these places of being the amazement of it all. Making my own tile has become a project that I've kind of put on the back burner kind of thing, because I just I just don't want to not do it well. And it's kind of one of the last things that we'll need to incorporate into the kitchen. So I'm kind of taking my time with it. And I think we've kind of a little bit gone a different direction with actually putting the stone going up the wall instead, because I had to buy an extra slab of our stone for our kitchen. So we're kind of in the middle. And I think that I wouldn't get the contractors to actually do the tile for me, because I actually love laying tile on walls. It's I don't know, I really enjoy it. So it's kind of something I want to do myself anyways. So it may come later. I may opt to do that myself later on. So I have time. Another dilemma and another project that I really want to do. If you remember a year ago, if you've been following along for a while over on my main channel where we do all of our DIY projects, I did a makeover on our outdoor dining area patio situation. We got a pretty table, chairs, I hung string lights, we cleaned up the garden a lot, and I tried to power wash the brick. Now, our house and my design style and direction that I've taken this house is very French provincial. And when I was power washing the brick, it really did not come as clean as I'd like it to. It's very aged brick up there, and because we have so much lush green ground, we have lots of trees, so we have lots of roots. And I think what's happened is underneath the brick there's just been growth, the roots of the trees. We have huge lemon trees back there, a lot of trees. So it has made the brick very, very uneven, and a lot of the grout is missing. It needs to be updated. So a project eventually, probably in between this summer and next summer, I want to do a project up there where I actually take up the brick in like where it's most damaged and do like a different kind of pattern, maybe introduce some like pea gravel, because I really love that look for like the French look, and have it like bordered in brick, but remedy this whole situation where it's like uneven and the brick is bad and some are loose, some are not. It needs to be redone for sure. So then I go down the rabbit hole of like, have I ever taken up brick before? No. Do I need to rent a jackhammer? Because that's how they had to do it for another part of our property to fix a drainage issue. I'm like, I've never used a jackhammer before. I'm like, okay. And of course, I'm going to want to do all the projects myself post baby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to want to get my hands dirty again. I don't even know how to use a jackhammer, but I think that's the only way to break up the brick and get it out. And then how do I level it underneath once I get the brick up? Let's solve that problem first. But then like, once I get the brick up, what do I need to level it? Because it is so kind of like jagged right now. What do I need to put underneath the pea gravel for proper drainage? That butts up right to the wall of our bedroom, and it needs to be like properly drained. Question mark. How do I do that? Like proper drainage. What products do I use for underneath pea gravel? So these are all the questions that I ask myself about every project that I do. This is what goes on in my head before every project that I work on. So you're just getting to see that process of me not knowing anything yet. So I'm not really saying it is like, oh, like help me do it. I'm just saying it is like, this is what happens every time. So I'm with you. I understand. It's like, I don't even know where to start. It's too the project as a whole is kind of really overwhelming and I never get started. And then I also understand you guys like being like, well, even if I didn't know where to start, how do I even do it? So these are currently my own dilemmas and my own upcoming projects that I am going through this process the same way that you will do on any of the new skills that you learn for your new project. I'm learning them too, so I'm going to dive into like, let's say the outdoor area, and I'm going to start researching pea gravel and what goes underneath. Is it sand? Is it whatever? What is it? And what people have done and how to level it and make it make sense, and probably find a YouTube video of a girl using a jackhammer because I need some empowerment. So if you have used a jackhammer before, let me know. Like send me a video so that I feel empowered to like, okay, I can get out here with the jackhammer. I'm sure there's like a smaller version or something. So know you're not alone. Know that every project, even for me, doing all these things and knowing all these different skills and all the things, there's constantly something to learn. There's constantly a learning curve kind of thing, like you're going into something new for the very first time every time. And it's just about making the best decision you can right away. Like what's the first thing that you can just like dive into it with, and how can you learn from it? And how can you be better? How can you get maybe a slightly better tool the next time and better yourself for the next time? That was really a big thing for me when starting my YouTube channel. I was on a very, very limited budget trying to turn this into a career. And every month I would dedicate a certain amount of money to be like, okay, I have $50 this month. What could I invest in or save in to better my YouTube channel, to better my equipment, to offer better quality videos? And it just took time, and it took research and like figuring out what to do. And so skills are built over time. Skills are learned over time, trial and error. And if you haven't watched the last episode, if you've struggled to get started with a project and you just don't know where to start, definitely go back and watch that one and just utilize everything at your fingertips. We have so much at our fingertips with the internet. People have done some amazing tutorials, and I know that I approach every video that I do more as a come along on this journey with me instead of me teaching. That's just my preferred style of content because I'm no expert. I'm more of a jack of all trades. I like to do lots of different stuff. So I don't think of myself as an expert in anything because I'm always learning and I'm always evolving. So my style is a little different, but I think that there's a lot that you can learn, from my channel too. And there's amazing creators out there that are sharing amazing skills. I hope this inspires you to tackle your next project. I'll have another project tomorrow that I want to add to the list. I'm like, how do they do that? I want to learn how to do that. I need to do that in this area of my house. And it never ends. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, follow along if you're listening on the audio. Follow along on the podcast. Leave a review. It helps the podcast so much reach more people that it could enjoy it and find it valuable. So definitely share it if you want to with someone that you think would enjoy it. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys again for another episode very, very soon. And follow along on our kitchen renovation. I'm excited to see the finished outcome, and you will know if I make my own tile for the backsplash. Bye, guys.